again, I am back with my assistant, Hobby, to share about what else has been going on with me lately. It's been a fun couple of months, let me tell you. So, I have been diagnosed recently with an autoimmune disorder called Hashimoto's. Many of you might be familiar with this. It is something I had heard of, but I wasn't exactly sure what it is. Basically, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disorder and it affects your thyroid. So let's back up. When I was diagnosed with my pituitary tumor back in 2017, which if you're new here, just stumbled upon this video and have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll link that down below because that is kind of part one of this story. But since I was diagnosed with my pituitary tumor in 2017, I have been seeing an endocrinologist regularly to just check all of my hormone levels. So since that time, I've had full thyroid panels, full hormone panels actually, about every 6 months. At that time, initially, my thyroid levels were normal when I was initially diagnosed with my pituitary. But because I've had full hormone checks every 6 months or so, I have been aware that my thyroid levels have been slightly increasing about every time they're checked. About every time they're checked, they go up just a little bit more. So it's just been something that we've been observing. And at this last round of checks back in December, when I went to my endocrinologist again just for a regular follow-up on my pituitary tumor, which actually at that appointment I also discovered that it's back, surprise. I was just talking a little bit about my concerns that the thyroid levels kept increasing and what that would mean down the line if that track continues. And my endocrinologist at that point decided to run some secondary tests, which are antibody tests. And that tells you the presence of an autoimmune disease in your blood, in your antibodies. And that came back positive for those tests. So the combination of the antibody test and my elevated thyroid levels confirmed the diagnosis of Hashimoto's. So that's where I'm at. So again, this should go without saying, but I am not a doctor. I am relaying the information that was presented to me and told to me and my own research online. So everything I'm about to say, like, obviously if you feel like this is something that applies to you, talk to your doctor about it. Don't listen to me. So what is an autoimmune disorder? So there's actually quite a few different autoimmune disorders. I think there's like 80 or something, some very high number. They're all kind of different, but they all kind of involve the same thing, which is your immune system. It's when your immune system attacks healthy cells instead of protecting it. It goes on attack, it goes on defense. And in the case of Hashimoto's, they are attacking your thyroid. The thyroid is something that controls a lot of different things in your body. So by having your body attack it, it's causing lots of other issues within your body. They don't really know what causes Hashimoto's, which is interesting. They think there's likely a genetic component to it. I don't have anybody in my family that I know of that has Hashimoto's. However, I do have other family members, not in my immediate family, but in my more extended family that have had other autoimmune disorders. Which makes sense because if you have one autoimmune disorder, it is likely that you will have others. I have not been tested for others at this point. I'm kind of early on in this stage, but it probably will be something I will be sure to do soon just to make sure everything else is good. But I am likely to develop others if I haven't already. So that's a bit of a bummer. So what are the symptoms for Hashimoto's? So they're fun, let me tell you. I'm experiencing quite a few of them. Oh, I'm sorry, are you not comfy? Let's switch sides for you then. Gotta make sure you're comfy and you're good. So the main common symptoms for Hashimoto's are fatigue, weakness in your muscles or muscle pain. Funnily enough, experiencing some of that right now as we speak, which is fun. Weight gain is a big one. Hair loss is another big one. Let's see what else. Irritability. Shelby will tell you that's a big one I'm experiencing because she loves to point out how irritable I am. Memory loss is another one that's kind of annoying. I find that it's more short-term memory loss, but let's see, those are the big ones. Also, like dry skin is another one that's kind of interesting. Those are pretty much the ones that I feel like I'm experiencing. Weight gain is something that I've noticed over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years mainly. It's always been interesting to me that has been something that I'm experiencing because I eat very healthy, I work out regularly, and instead of losing weight, I'm gaining weight. And that is annoying because I feel like I'm doing everything possible I can to lose weight. Not that I'm like, you know, obviously incredibly overweight, but it is frustrating and a signal that something isn't quite right if you're doing those things and still gaining weight. So that makes sense. Hair loss is another one that's been annoying. Over about the same time period, I have noticed a big change in my hair and hair loss, and to be completely honest, that is the thing I have been the most self-conscious about, and the main reason why I decided to get extensions back in December, because it was something that was just really starting to bother me and affecting my you know, confidence. So luckily there is a quick fix for that problem, so extensions going well, and I'm loving that option. The irritability is something that, now that I know it is likely attributed to this, is, again, that's one that's a little bit more annoying to those around me than it is to myself. But now that I know that it is something that's attributed to this, I am just trying to be more aware of it and conscious of it. But then also, like Shelby, for example, is also aware that I don't necessarily have complete control over it. So instead of just getting furious at me, trust me, she does, but at least she knows that it's coming from that and it's not coming from, you know, like a place of hatred in my heart. I hope she knows that. The memory loss is another one that's kind of annoying. I've always had very good memory, very good organization, and you know, just in I would say like the past 6 months, like Shelby and I will have conversations, like business conversations, and then I turn around and I completely forget that we ever talked about it. And she's found that to be very infuriating as well, understandably. So that's where I've noticed it mainly, but I'm sure it's affecting other places that I haven't even quite realized. The muscle, like cramps and aches and weakness, is also something that's been kind of bizarre. I would say while some of these symptoms like the weight gain and the hair loss have been kind of like coming on slowly over years, I would say some of these other ones I've only started really noticing the past more 6 months, and that's one of them. The amount of times in the past 6 months or so that I have had like back aches or back problems, and I've always just thought, oh, I like tweaked it working out or something, and I've done that plenty of times in my life. But what's interesting is that lately I'll like be completely incapacitated, like can't move, and then the next day I'm totally fine. And if you like pull a muscle in your back or like have a pinched nerve, you don't recover that quickly. So I think it's all attributed to this. I just have like aches and pains and spasms, and then they just are there for about 24 hours and then they go away, which is bizarre. So like I woke up this morning and have am currently experiencing lots of back pain. So this will, I guess, test my hypothesis. I'll see if tomorrow I am totally fine, which I expect to be, because I know I didn't tweak it working out or anything. I just slept and woke up with it hurting. So I don't know, it's weird. Then the fatigue is also something that I've noticed about the past 6 months. It can be a bit debilitating. Just like out of the blue, I will be so exhausted and like have to go lay down. And again, that extreme fatigue will last for about you know, a day or so, and then I'll be fine for several days or weeks, and then it'll hit me again. It's not constant, at least at this point, and that's my experience. So what is the treatment for Hashimoto's? Well, that's a great question. I have learned that Hashimoto's is not curable. I will always have it. It is something that in itself isn't exactly something that requires medication. What is likely to happen is that the Hashimoto's will continue to attack my thyroid, and it will cause me to go into hypothyroidism, which is technically a separate disorder. But a lot of people that have hypothyroidism, it is caused by their Hashimoto's immune disorder. So if it gets to a point where my thyroid levels continue to increase, my body continues to attack my thyroid, then that will send me into hypothyroidism, and that will require medication at that point. I'm close to that threshold, but I'm not quite at the level that my doctor's comfortable starting me on medication. And that's really because once I start it, I'm gonna have to be on it the rest of my life. So if I can avoid taking medication for a period of time here while we're just closely monitoring it, then that's what I'm gonna go for. I'm not the kind of person who just automatically jumps on medication. So that medication would be basically hormone replacement for my thyroid, since it wouldn't be able to perform because it's being attacked by my body. So that's looking ahead where we're gonna be headed inevitably. But there are some studies and some evidence that with diet changes you can control the symptoms of your Hashimoto's so that you just feel better. But there's also some evidence that you can cause your Hashimoto's to go into what they call remission, similar to remission from, like, you know, cancer or something else that's you might be able to relate that term to. Again, I'm always going to have it. It's never going to be declared cured or completely gone, but there is some evidence that with diet changes you can feel better, but then also just cause your numbers to go into remission and kind of level out and normalize again. So I mean, diet changes, that's easy enough, right? You know, you can do that with, you know, no cost to you as far as medication or putting additional hormones into your body. So it's worth a shot, right? So I have, over the past few weeks, inputted some major diet changes just to see if that works. It will likely be something that, again, I'll have to follow for the rest of my life should I find that it is helpful to me and that I feel better. But these are some big changes. So I am slowly trying to acclimate to these changes and learn and educate myself about them. The first one is that it's really important for people that have Hashimoto's to be gluten-free. This is because gluten, apparently, as I've learned, has the same kind of, like, I think it's like the protein makeup or molecular makeup as your thyroid. So when you consume gluten, your body can't tell the difference between the gluten and your thyroid, and so it attacks all of it. Like, and it just causes lots of inflammation because of that. So, okay, you need to decide what you want to do. This way? Okay. So I have completely removed gluten from my diet, and it's not something that you can like cheat on, or it's not going to be effective. It's not something that, oh, every now and again I might have a bite of gluten, like hard and fast, no gluten. Otherwise, there is no point. So that's something that I have removed completely from my diet. And the other thing that is very highly recommended to remove from your diet is all dairy products. I have been vegetarian for over 10 years now, so I already don't eat meat. The only thing that was stopping me from being a vegan is dairy products, because I eat some cheese, and I have also eaten eggs and stuff in the past, but I recently found out I have an allergy to eggs anyway, so I've been avoiding eggs for I would say 4 or 5, 6 months, somewhere in there, ever since I took that allergy test that Shelby and I did together, if you guys remember that. So I already haven't really been eating eggs. I have like a couple of times here and there, mostly only out at a restaurant, and there wasn't a lot of other options because I didn't feel like I necessarily felt super bad after them always, so I was a little bit. Anyways, I digress. No dairy. That's something that I'm gonna do my best on. Eating out, it is very difficult to find options that are both gluten-free and vegan. I just got back into New York from traveling, and I had to eat a lot of meals out while traveling, and I will just say it's difficult. It's pretty easy to find gluten-free or change something to be gluten-free. It's also kind of easy to find something vegan, but both, especially inside of an airport, is very hard. So I'm gonna have to be better at, you know, bringing my own food when traveling, but then also just being hyper aware of every ingredient that is in everything I purchase. Gluten is in so many things that you wouldn't even think gluten is in, and that has been a very big learning curve for me. I've always felt that I was slightly sensitive to gluten. When I did that same allergy test, it came back that I was sensitive to gluten, and that wasn't a surprise to me because I've never felt great when I eat gluten. But then also I did the 23andMe. So the allergy test was a blood test. 23andMe is DNA test. So at like a, you know, DNA genetic level, it said that I was susceptible to have a gluten allergy. I haven't formally been tested for celiacs, but that is likely something that I will do soon, because there also is a correlation between people with Hashimoto's and people with celiacs. There is a lot of overlap there, which I also find interesting, and a lot of people, like I read some study, and it's like 80% of people that have Hashimoto's feel like they're sensitive to gluten. So that is why it's you know, removed from the diet of people with Hashimoto's, because there's some sort of correlation there, which I find interesting. So having a body that is predisposed to being sensitive to gluten, allergic to gluten, it is interesting to me that I now have an autoimmune disorder that I'm aware of where I can't have gluten. To me, that means that my body knows that it's a problem, and I just find that interesting. Anyways, I feel like I've rambled on for a while, but those are the two main diet changes that I will be putting into my diet. The other one that is really important to limit is sugar, because that is also something that can lead to other autoimmune diseases. And so that's something that I'm just gonna limit and try to be aware of. I don't eat a ton of sugar anyways, but so many packaged products have added sugar where it isn't necessary. So, you know, this is basically going to lead me to try to eat less packaged things, eat more whole foods, you know, fruits and veggies, and try to get away from packaged stuff whenever possible. I don't think it's realistic for me to be completely free of packaged foods. That just isn't gonna work for me and my lifestyle at the moment, but I'm gonna try to do better. So no more gluten, minimal dairy, only when absolutely, you know, I don't want to say absolutely necessary, but only when likely eating out and there aren't a lot of options otherwise, and then limit sugar. That's where I'm at. So hopefully by doing those things, my Hashimoto symptoms will be reduced and I will feel better. That's really the goal with the diet changes. And then I'll just continue to have my levels monitored and checked, and hopefully can hold off the place where I need to be on the hormone replacement medication for as long as possible. So that's fun. So those two things, pituitary tumor, Hashimoto's, have kept me pretty busy the past many weeks, just thinking and absorbing and doing lots of research. But this is where I want to crowdsource, specifically with the Hashimoto's, because I'm newer to it. Do any of you guys have that diagnosis? If so, what has worked for you? What diet changes, if any, have you made? Do you have any resources, any books, any great people that you follow on Instagram that you love to follow that talk about autoimmune disorders or Hashimoto's? Send me everything. I need all the information, because the internet is a very overwhelming place when you just start randomly Googling. So if there are some tried and true resources that you guys use, or you know people that have Hashimoto's personally and can connect me with them, let me know. Email me. We'll put our email down below. I'd love to chat with you in email. DM me on Instagram and let's get the conversation started. All right, well, that's enough health issues for me in a while. Hopefully I won't have to come back and share anything new with you guys for a very, very long time, because this is becoming a bit routine, isn't it? All right, well, I'm gonna go have some lunch. Thank you, Poppy, for joining me and being my emotional support animal through this conversation. Yeah, all right. Take care, guys. Bye.